The galaxy was celebrating. For the first time in many cycles, there was no war. No alarms. No burning planets. The great banners of the Galactic Empire floated above the capital world, shining under the light of 3 bright suns. The galactic throne had won. Humanity was defeated. At least, that is what everyone believed. In the Grand Council Hall, alien leaders from many worlds stood together. Tall ones with silver skin. Short ones with glowing eyes. Others covered in armor and medals. They spoke loudly and laughed. Humans were brave, one general said. But bravery is not enough, another replied. On the high throne, Emperor Valdris raised his hand. The room became quiet. Today, he announced, the last human colony has fallen. Their fleets are destroyed. Their worlds belong to us. Humanity is no longer a threat. The hall exploded in cheers. Music began to play. Warships in orbit fired bright lights into space to celebrate. Across the galaxy, news channels repeated the same message. The human war is over. But far from the celebration, something strange was happening. At the edge of the capital system, near the outer defense line, a small patrol ship suddenly stopped moving. Its lights flickered. Inside the ship, officers looked at their screens. Power levels dropping, one said. That is not possible, the captain replied. Then the screens went black. No explosion. No attack. Just silence. A few seconds later, another patrol ship lost power. Then another. Within 1 minute, 20 defense stations stopped sending signals. Back at the capital, alarms finally began to ring. In the Grand Council Hall, the celebration music cut off. An officer ran inside, breathing fast. Your Majesty, he said, we are losing contact with the outer defense grid. The Emperor frowned. Is this a human attack? Someone asked. That is impossible, another leader said quickly. All human fleets were destroyed. More officers rushed in. Communication satellites are offline. Long-range scanners are not responding. Navigation systems are freezing. Fear slowly replaced pride in the room. On the giant screen above the throne, space appeared calm. Stars burned peacefully. Nothing moved. Then. A shadow. At first, it was small. Almost invisible. A dark shape near one of the outer stars. Zoom in, the Emperor ordered. The image became clearer. There was something there. A shape darker than space itself. No ship was detected entering the system, an officer whispered. It did not jump in, another said quietly. It was already there. The shadow slowly grew larger. It was massive. Bigger than a battle station. Bigger than any known dreadnought. Its surface did not reflect light. It seemed to absorb it. The stars behind it looked twisted, as if space itself was bending. And still, no weapons fire. No movement. Just silence. Then every screen across the capital world changed at the same time. Military screens. Civilian screens. Personal devices. All of them showed one message. White letters on a black background. We are still here. The room froze. No one spoke. The Emperor gripped the arms of his throne. That is a human signal code, a communications officer said, his voice shaking. But that cannot be, a general replied. We destroyed their fleet. The dark shape began to shift. Slowly, slowly, parts of it became visible. Edges formed. Massive structures unfolded. A long, sharp hull appeared, stretching across thousands of meters. Energy lines glowed faint blue along its surface. It was a warship. A human warship. But not like any ship seen before. There were no visible engines. No visible weapons. No markings. Only power. Pure, silent power. Around it, small alien patrol ships drifted without power. Frozen like toys. The Emperor stood up. Send the first fleet, he ordered. Surround it. Outside, hundreds of Imperial warships moved into formation. Cannons charged. Missiles armed. Shields activated. The human warship did not react. It did not turn. It did not raise weapons. It simply stayed there. Watching. Inside the alien flagship, a young officer stared at the screen. Why is it alone? He asked softly. No one answered. Then a second message appeared. You celebrated too soon. The stars around the dark ship dimmed slightly. Not because the light was gone, but because something much greater had arrived. In the Grand Council Hall, fear finally showed on every face. Humanity was not finished. And whatever this ship was, it was never meant to be seen. The war was not over. It had only just begun. The human warship did not move. It stayed in orbit above the capital system like a dark mountain in space. Around it, the first Imperial fleet formed a perfect circle. Thousands of warships. Heavy cruisers. Battle carriers. Destroyers. Their weapons were ready. Their shields were strong. But none of them fired. Inside the Imperial flagship, Supreme Commander Ralvek stared at the screen. His claws tapped slowly on the control panel. Scan it again, he ordered. We are scanning, the officer replied nervously. But, we cannot measure its power. What do you mean cannot? It is like scanning empty space. The readings disappear. Another officer turned in his chair. Commander, the ship is blocking our sensors. We cannot see inside it. Ralvek narrowed his eyes. That is impossible. But deep inside, he felt something he had not felt in many wars. Uncertainty. Back in the Grand Council Hall, Emperor Valdris stood silently. The celebration banners were now turned off. The music was gone. The giant screen showed the human ship clearly now. Its hull was smooth and dark. No windows. No lights. No visible guns. Why does it not attack? One council member whispered. As if answering the question, every alien warship received a direct signal. A calm human voice filled the bridges. This is Captain Elias Ward of the human defense vessel. Judgment. The name echoed through every command center. Judgment. We are not here to conquer, the voice continued. We are here to correct. Murmurs spread across the fleet. Commander Ralvek clenched his jaw. Prepare main cannons, he said. Outside, the first fleet powered up. Energy beams began to glow at the front of each ship. Missile bays opened. Fighters launched into space. The human ship still did nothing. Captain Ward's voice returned. You destroyed 12 human colonies. You attacked civilian transports. You broke the peace treaty. His voice did not sound angry. That made it worse. Ralvek raised his hand. Fire. Thousands of weapons shot forward at the same time. Bright beams filled space. Missiles screamed across the dark sky. The attack was powerful enough to destroy a small moon. The beams struck the human ship. And vanished. Not blocked. Not deflected. Vanished. As if they had never existed. Silence filled the bridges of the Imperial fleet. That is not possible, an officer whispered. Fire again. Ralvek shouted. A second wave launched. Stronger. More focused. Again. The attacks disappeared before touching the hull. The human warship remained still. Untouched. Then something changed. A low vibration spread across space. Not sound, but a feeling. Inside every Imperial ship, lights flickered. Power levels began to drop. "Commander," an engineer shouted. "Our reactors are losing output." Across the fleet, the same message repeated. Shields weakened. Weapons shut down. Engines slowed. Within seconds, the first fleet went dark. Thousands of warships floating powerless in space. No explosions. No destruction. Just control. Complete control. Back on the capital world, panic spread. Civilians watched in fear as their mighty fleet drifted like broken metal. Emperor Valdris felt cold. "How?" he whispered. On the screen, the human ship slowly turned. It faced the planet directly. Captain Ward spoke again. "We could have ended your fleet. We chose not to." In the Imperial flagship, Commander Ralvek tried to restore power. Nothing responded. The human ship continued. "This is your final warning. You believed humanity was weak because we did not answer your violence with more violence. That was mercy." The stars around the judgment seemed to bend slightly. Space itself looked unstable near its hull. A council member in the throne room stepped back. "That ship, it is controlling gravity." Another shook his head. "No, it is controlling something deeper." Captain Ward's voice softened. "You celebrated our extinction. You were wrong." The massive warship began charging something deep inside its core. A faint blue light appeared along its surface. Not bright, but endless. And for the first time in history, the Galactic Empire understood a terrible truth. Humans had never been trying to win the war. They had been building something far greater. Something that should not exist. And now it was awake. The Imperial fleet drifted in silence. Thousands of warships. Powerless. Frozen. Above them, the human warship Judgment glowed faint blue, like a quiet star that did not need to shine brightly to prove its power. Inside the Grand Council Hall, no one spoke. For the first time in many generations, the Galactic Empire had no control. Emperor Valdris looked smaller on his throne now. "Open a direct channel," he ordered slowly. Moments later, a large image appeared in the center of the hall. A human stood on the screen. He wore a simple dark uniform. No medals. No decorations. Just a small symbol on his chest, Earth. His face was calm. His eyes steady. This was Captain Elias Ward. "You have my attention," the Emperor said, trying to sound strong. Captain Ward looked directly at him. "You always had our attention," he replied. The room felt heavy. "You said humanity was finished," Ward continued. "You said we were weak." He paused. "You judged us too quickly." Far above the planet, the judgment began to move slowly. Not forward. Not backward. It simply adjusted its position, as if reminding everyone of its size. "You lost 12 colonies," the Emperor said. "You lost your fleets. You lost your outer systems. This war was decided." Ward shook his head slightly. "No," he said. "It was studied." The alien leaders looked confused. Ward continued. "When your empire first expanded into our space, we knew we could not defeat you in open war. You had more ships. More worlds. More soldiers. So we did what humans do best. We adapted." A quiet signal pulsed from the judgment. Across the system, small hidden objects activated. Dark satellites that had been invisible for years. The Empire had never detected them. "We let you believe you were winning," Ward said. The council members began whispering. "You let us destroy your worlds," one shouted angrily. Ward's expression did not change. "We evacuated most of them. The room went silent. We knew which colonies you would attack first, Ward continued. We watched your strategies. We studied your commanders. We learned how you think. In orbit, alien engineers tried again to restart their ships. Nothing worked. The judgment was not just blocking power. It was rewriting the rules of energy inside the system. You are lying, Emperor Valdris said. Ward tilted his head slightly. Check your prisoner records from the colony of Vega 9. The Emperor looked toward his officers. An officer quickly accessed the data. His face turned pale. The human population numbers, they do not match. Another officer checked another system. The evacuation transports, they were empty when captured. Shock spread across the hall. Ward spoke again. You were fighting shadows. The truth hit them like a physical force. Humanity had sacrificed territory. They had sacrificed pride. But they had saved their people. And during all that time, they had been building this. The judgment was started before the war began, Ward said calmly. You believed we were afraid. We were preparing. The massive warship's core brightened slightly. Not as a threat. As a reminder. You built one ship? The Emperor asked quietly. Ward's eyes hardened slightly. No. Across the galaxy, far beyond the capital system, something else moved in deep space. But the Empire did not know that yet. This vessel, Ward continued, is not a weapon of conquest. It is a weapon of balance. The Emperor tried to stand tall again. What do you want? He demanded. Ward answered without delay. You will withdraw from all human space. You will release every human prisoner. You will pay for the worlds you burned. And you will remember this day. Silence filled the hall. One council member whispered, if we refuse. For the first time, Ward's voice became cold. Then we stop holding back. At that exact moment, a small demonstration occurred. Far from the planet, one empty asteroid, chosen carefully, suddenly folded inward. Not exploded. Not shattered. Folded. Compressed into a small glowing sphere, and then nothing. Gone. No debris. No dust. Erased. Gasps filled the council chamber. Ward spoke one final sentence before ending the transmission. You mistook our patience for weakness. The screen went dark. Above the capital world, the judgment waited. Still calm. Still silent. Still in complete control. And now the Galactic Empire understood something terrifying. Humans had not built a ship to win a war. They had built a ship to decide who deserved to continue one. The asteroid was gone. Not destroyed. Not broken. Gone. Every alien scientist in the capital system checked their screens again and again. There was no dust. No energy wave. No explosion mark. It was as if the asteroid had never existed. Inside the Grand Council Hall, silence felt heavy like stone. Emperor Valdris slowly sat back on his throne. This is not possible, one scientist whispered. But it was possible. Because it had just happened. Above the planet, the human warship Judgment remained still. Its surface glowed softly with blue light, like a calm ocean hiding deep storms. The Imperial fleet was still powerless. Thousands of ships. Useless. Commander Ralvek stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the dark shape on his screen. They are controlling matter, one engineer said quietly. No, another replied. They are controlling space. That answer was worse. Suddenly, long-range sensors from outside the capital system activated. Commander, a scanning officer said, his voice shaking, we are detecting energy spikes, far beyond the outer rim. Ralvek turned quickly. How many? The officer swallowed. Multiple. The main screen changed. Far away in deep space, small blue lights appeared. Then another. Then 5 more. Then dozens. They were faint, but clear. And they were moving. Inside the council hall, the same data appeared. Emperor Valdris stood up again. Report. An officer answered with fear in his voice. Your Majesty, those energy signatures matched the human vessel above us. The room felt cold. There is more than one, someone whispered. Above the capital, Captain Elias Ward stood quietly on his bridge. A young human officer looked at him. Sir, she said softly, all units are in position. Ward nodded. Hold formation. The judgment was not alone. It had never been alone. Across hidden regions of space, more ships like it were waking up. Not thousands. Not millions. Just enough. The Emperor tried to keep his voice steady. You are threatening the entire galaxy, he asked through a reopened channel. Ward appeared on screen once more. We are protecting it, he replied calmly. You expanded without limits. You burned worlds that resisted. You erased species that stood in your way. The council members looked uncomfortable. Ward continued. You believed no one could stop you. Another energy pulse flashed from deep space. The alien sensors could now clearly see at least 12 human vessels. All the same design. All the same impossible power. The Empire had ruled for centuries without fear. Now, for the first time, they were surrounded. Commander Ralvek felt his hands tremble slightly. If they wanted war, he whispered, we would already be gone. That truth hurt. Because it was clear. The humans were not attacking. They were demonstrating. Above the capital world, the judgment slowly descended closer to the planet. Not dangerously close. Just enough for every citizen to see it clearly in the sky. It blocked part of the sun. Cities grew dark under its shadow. Panic spread across the surface. Ward's voice filled every communication channel again. This is your final moment to choose. He paused. We do not want your empire. We do not want revenge. We want balance. In the council hall, arguments broke out. We must surrender. We cannot kneel to humans. If we fight, we lose everything. Emperor Valdris raised his hand for silence. He looked older now. Tired. Proud, but afraid. He looked at the screen where the human captain stood calmly. You planned this before the war, the Emperor said quietly. Yes, Ward answered. You let us believe you were weak. Yes. The Emperor closed his eyes for a moment. When did you decide to build these ships? Ward gave a simple answer. The day you first called us insignificant. That sentence hit harder than any weapon. The Emperor looked around the chamber. He saw fear in every face. He understood something clearly now. This was not defeat by force. This was defeat by underestimation. The Empire had laughed at humanity. They had thought humans were divided, emotional, fragile. They never noticed one important truth. Humans learn fastest when they are losing. The Emperor opened his eyes. Prepare the surrender declaration, he said quietly. Gasps filled the room. Above the planet, the blue glow of the judgment slowly dimmed. Captain Ward watched the Imperial fleet carefully. He did not smile. He did not celebrate. Because this was never about pride. It was about survival. And as the surrender signal transmitted across the system, the galaxy finally understood. Humans were not the loudest species. Not the strongest in numbers. Not the oldest. But they were the most patient. And patience, when pushed too far, becomes unstoppable. The surrender signal spread across the capital system. Every alien warship received it. Every military base confirmed it. The order was clear. Stand down. Do not fire. Do not resist. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire lowered its weapons. In orbit, the powerless Imperial fleet remained frozen. But slowly, carefully, the human warship Judgment released its hold. Lights flickered back on. Engines restarted. Weapons came back online. But no one moved. No one dared. Above the planet, the massive human ship still blocked part of the sun. Its shadow covered half the capital city. On the surface, millions of civilians looked up at the sky. Some were afraid. Some were angry. Some were silent. Inside the Grand Council Hall, Emperor Valdris stood before the communication screen one last time. Captain Elias Ward appeared again. No anger on his face. No pride. Only calm. "We accept your surrender," Ward said. The Emperor spoke slowly. "The Empire will withdraw from all human systems." He hesitated for a second. "All prisoners will be released." Another pause. "And we will recognize human space as sovereign territory." Those words had never been spoken before. Not about any species. Ward nodded once. "That is wise." But the Emperor looked directly at him. "You had the power to destroy us," Valdris said quietly. "Why didn't you?" The council hall waited for the answer. Across the system, even alien officers on their ships listened. Ward answered simply. "Because we are not you." The words were not shouted. They were not angry. They were honest. "We built these ships because you left us no choice," Ward continued. "But power is not meant for revenge." He paused. "It is meant for protection." Silence filled the chamber again. Outside, deep in space, the other human vessels began to power down their bright blue cores. One by one, their energy signatures faded. They had made their point. Above the capital world, the Judgment slowly began to rise. Its shadow moved across the cities. Light returned to the surface. Before activating its cloak, one final message spread across every screen in the galaxy. Not a threat. Not a warning. A reminder. We wanted peace. Remember who chose war. Then, slowly, the massive ship began to disappear. First its edges blurred. Then its blue lines faded. Then its dark hull melted into the stars. Within seconds, it was gone. The sky looked normal again. But nothing was normal anymore. Across the galaxy, leaders on distant worlds watched the recordings. They replayed the moment the asteroid folded into nothing. They replayed the moment the Imperial fleet lost power. They replayed the sentence. "You celebrated too soon." And they understood something important. Humanity had not shouted. They had not begged. They had endured. They had prepared. They had waited. And when the moment came, they did not conquer. They corrected. In the months that followed, the Galactic Empire changed. Expansion stopped. Treaties were rewritten. Borders were respected. No one wanted to test humanity again. Far beyond known space, hidden in quiet darkness, the human fleet regrouped. There were not thousands of ships. Only a few. But each one carried the same silent promise. Never again. On the bridge of the Judgment, Captain Ward stood looking at the stars. A young officer approached him. "Sir," she asked softly, "do you think they learned?" Ward watched the endless space in front of him. "I hope so," he replied. "And if they didn't?" she asked. The captain's eyes remained steady. "Then we are still here." The ship drifted deeper into the dark. Invisible. Silent. Waiting. And across the galaxy, one truth remained clear. Humans were never the loudest voice in the stars. But when they finally spoke, the galaxy listened. And it stayed silent.